So the G7 meetings, as you can see, kicking off in great style. You have a range of meetings. The Indian Prime Minister Modi has met with his counterparts from the UK, from France, from Ukraine as well. So you had the G7 meetings now going on for 2 days. The first day, of course, focused on the G7 leaders actually meeting, talking about Russia, talking about China, talking about a range of other issues. And now, of course, you have the second day where you have the outreach meeting, which includes countries like India. So the Prime Minister Modi, of course, landing in the early hours of the morning India time today. And he's had a very, very busy schedule, including the much awaited meeting with Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy, which people on the internet were very, very keen to see. So basically, the Prime Minister's day consisted of a bunch of meetings with some of the most senior leaders in the world. First of all, you have President Macron of France. The two leaders essentially talked about defense, security, the blue economy, technology, so on and so forth. As you know, that these are two very powerful leaders who also have a very, very close relationship bilaterally. As you know, the India-France relationship spans from the Indo-Pacific to defense to technology to economics and trade to even education. So this is, of course, a very, very important meeting between these two leaders. I believe the fourth time that they've met in just the span of a year. So absolutely a very, very busy bilateral schedule for these two gentlemen. You also then had another anticipated meeting in its own right, the meeting between Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Modi. The two gentlemen also talked about the UK-India Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, which of course includes things like technology, things like defense, trade, people-to-people relations. This is also a relationship that has done a lot better in recent years. Prime Minister Sunak, of course, is heading to a tough, very closely contested general election on July 4th, and the results of that are yet to be seen, but he's quite far behind. But again, someone who has quite a following back home in India because, of course, of his Indian origin and roots. Another interesting meeting, of course, with Prime Minister Zelensky, with President Zelensky, pardon me, of Ukraine. This relationship, of course, largely this meeting, of course, focusing on Ukraine and India, the bilateral relationship as well, of course, as would be expected. The war that is taking place in Ukraine right now. The two leaders also talked about, of course, the bilateral relationship, but also I'm assuming much of the conversation will also have been about the Ukraine Peace Summit, which is going to be happening in Switzerland. So that's also going to be an important event for which there will be an Indian representation. It's going to be a senior bureaucrat who's going to be representing India. So I'm sure some of the conversation would have also revolved around that. You also had the Prime Minister meet the Pope very briefly. During the day, and of course you had, as we showed you earlier, the visuals of Prime Minister Modi meeting Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni for just a very, very short period of time, and of course all the world leaders, just having a quick a meeting with the host leader, which is Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. So also, of course, we have a bunch of very other interesting meetings going forward over the course of the day. First of all, we have a major question about President Biden and Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada. These two gentlemen, of course, with Biden, there is a outstanding question. Of course, we know that there's going to be a meeting, but the question is, what nature of meeting is that going to be? National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said something about there being a meeting between the two leaders, but the nature of that engagement not being exactly clear. So whether that's a structured bilateral meeting or not. But of course, the important thing to remember is this is the first time since the G20 summit in 2023 that the two leaders have met. We also know that things have not been easy in the India-US relationship in the intervening period of time. You have, of course, most prominently the Pannu assassination controversy, where the United States government believes that, reportedly at least believes, that India's government may have had a role in trying to orchestrate the assassination of Gurpratap Singh Pannu, who is a prominent pro-Khalistan figure and a US citizen. This has been something that has been followed up by the US government at the highest levels. And you also had Jake Sullivan, who is the National Security Advisor of the United States, coming out and saying that, look, we're going to have this meeting, but the Pannu case is going to be continue to be discussed at the highest level. So, of course, you see that this is not an issue that has lost its salience in any way, which is much to the chagrin of India, of course, because it doesn't want this to disrupt the bilateral relationship. So we'll have to see the kind of meeting these two gentlemen have. You also have Prime Minister Trudeau, who's also there in the room, we know, but we're not sure if the two men are going to have any interaction whatsoever. Again, another very difficult bilateral relationship for reasons that are well known to you. Of course, in September 2023, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made the accusation of India perhaps being involved in the assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, another prominent pro-Khalistan figure on Canadian soil. This was again something that really set the cat among the pigeons. It has essentially frozen the bilateral relationship for the last year or so, and it doesn't seem at this point in time that there has been much much positive development in this regard. So that is absolutely going to be a problem moving forward. What you also have is the Prime Minister right now. What we can tell you is that the Prime Minister is at the G7 outreach meeting, which is of course the main reason he's there. The conversation is going to be about artificial intelligence, about technology, about a number of the security problems we talked about, Israel, Hamas, the war there, as well as the war in Ukraine. So of course a lot of conversation going to go on there, and he's currently there. So of course I'm sure he's also expected to make some remarks and contributions there. Moving on then, we also have a packed schedule of what happens after the outreach meeting. He's expected to meet the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz. Again, this is a relationship that has done very well over the last couple of years. Germany, of course, looking to sell India defense technology. Trade has improved. There's green energy being talked about, green hydrogen in particular. That's something that, of course, both sides will be looking at. And there's also been these two gentlemen, of course, meet regularly as well. As part of the Indian government and the German government have the intergovernmental consultations, which happen fairly regularly. So the leaders of the two countries meet fairly often. You also have of course, the much anticipated meeting, the one that everyone wants to know about, with Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy. Again, Italy, a country we don't think about too much in India, but really something that a country that is a major economic power in Europe, a major defense power in Europe, that India has had a bit of a rocky relationship with over the last couple of years. You remember the Augusta Westland scandal, the chopper scandal. You also have the big issue with the Marines case, the Italian Marines case, where two Italian Marines were arrested for killing Indian fishermen, mistaking them for pirates, and then there was a years-long battle for to decide where these men would be prosecuted. So that's what's been going on for a little while now, and what's changed, of course, in the last couple of years is that the Modi-Meloni, shall we say, this Jodi has in some senses, and sort of the public furor about it, the public interest in it, and really the lighthearted sense of, people enjoying themselves looking at these memes and jokes and so on, has actually turned a lot of the conversation around the India-Italy relationship to something that used to be very toxic, very radioactive. I remember a senior diplomat once telling me that, look, this was a relationship that was dead in the water, and now you suddenly have things picking up. People want to know about what's going on between these two. So, it's very rare for an India-Italy relationship to be front and center. But, that is the situation in which we find ourselves. That's, of course, very interesting as well. And then you're also going to have a meeting with Prime Minister Kishida of Japan. We, of course, know that Japan has been a very, very close partner for India. The two leaders, Kishida and Modi, have met several times. They meet once every year. Prime Minister Kishida was here, if my memory serves me correctly, in March 23, and of course for the G20 summit as well. So, this is something you have a lot. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar was there. I know the Japanese are keen to have Prime Minister Modi come to Japan in the later half of this year. It's a country he admires a great deal. So obviously a lot going on there. And then the day is going to end with a sort of informal, dinner and a cultural performance, we believe, which will then, close out a very, very long, very, very hectic day for all the leaders. We'll keep you updated with the latest here at India Today Global. Thanks so much for watching.